Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you very much for Nathalie Fillion to join me today for this interview or for this Corona talk. Thank you very much for being here. Nathalie is a playwright and director in theater. So she writes the plays and also directs them. Her current play is Plus Grand de Moi, so it means bigger than me. It has been on stage and touring through France for now 4 years and will go into 5th year next year. So very big play. And her two biggest fights are basically women and Europe. So two very interesting issues, and I'm very glad to have you here. Welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you, Niklas. Thank you for thinking of us all. Yeah, thank you.
Please do us the favor and tell us what does a playwright / director do in normal times when we don't have Corona, when you're just working, How does your day look like?
Yeah, I'm very busy because I'm very busy. I think I work maybe, I write only 20 or 30% of the time. Most of the time I spend in looking for money for productions, and I'm not alone for that, but I have to meet people, call people, send, look for money, and then when the time comes to direct, it's it's just the cherry on the cake. But in the meantime, yeah, mostly productions, and also all which is around our projects. It's not just people like me, either if they're only playwrights or playwrights and director. We also meet a lot of people. We go to schools, we do workshops. I'm asked many things. In fact, I have many invitations for a masterclass there, workshop there, and because my plays also are started in the contemporary playwriting, start to be a little bit known, so translated. So I was supposed to go to Bucharest, for instance, next month to have a master class in the university. Well, this is cancelled, for instance. So it's a mixture of all that. I would say kind of teaching, workshop, writing early in the morning, and then looking for money.
Looking for money, okay. And so how much did that change during or from Corona times? How much of your work has been cancelled, or what of your plans have been missed out?
Everything has been cancelled. Everything has been cancelled. It's in March I was supposed to be on tour with this show with Bigger Than Me. Fortunately, it was the end of the tour of this season, but there are a few shows just cancelled. In festivals, in theaters. I was supposed to meet, to go to a drama school, and I was invited there for some master class and meeting and stage reading, cancelled. Supposed to go to Bucharest, cancelled. To a festival for teenage, because I was commissioned to write for teenage as well as other playwrights. There was a big festival and we should have met the teenagers and watch them playing our short plays. Cancelled, maybe postponed. Some of these things are maybe postponed, but what's happening right now, because I'm not the only one in this case, the shows, most of the shows are cancelled, just over, because to postpone, then it will disturb the whole next season too. Some are postponed, some are postponed, but very few, I think. Also, we learned yesterday night that the Festival d'Avignon was just cancelled, which is a big loss for many theatre companies, many artists, because this is like it or not, it's a big market. So that's the way, just like Edinburgh, how do you pronounce it? Yeah. That's where all professionals come, so you don't have to, because usually you spend a lot of time calling them, writing mails, trying to make them come to see your show and so on. So that's the place to be when you have a show. If you can afford it, then you go there and they all come. So it's a big loss for many of us. Yeah. What else can I say? Yeah, also, of course, just as I told you, to go many playwrights, because some of us are only playwrights. I mean, they earn money. The income just comes from the writing. So also, and writings and what we call art education. So they go to school, they do workshops and so on, and they can live on that. And all this, of course, is cancelled because all the schools are closed and everything has just stopped. We are frozen. You know, everything is frozen till the mid-March, and plus we don't know when it will start again, because of course we know that when it starts again, it won't start by opening theaters, bars, and well, what I can say also, I realized that our theater is a very archaic art, you know, very and it has no sense. It makes no sense, you know, on videos or, you know, this virtual thing. Theater is being together, you know, building an assemblée, and then watch something all together in the same space and time. And so this is the time to, I mean, it's a big question mark for all of us, because it's not movie. And so some are trying to keep connected by videos right now, but, you know, it's not theater.
Yeah, it doesn't work with theater that way. You're self-employed, right?
Somehow I have. It's very French. It's complicated to. it could take 1 hour, full hour, to explain our system.
But can you explain a little bit what because we had a lot of German artists in this Corona talk, and so we know a little bit about the German point and what the German government does, as well as Hungary, which doesn't do anything. So what is the take on the French side? What does the French government do to help artists? Maybe not just playwrights, but also actors as well as musicians and so on and so forth. So can you give us a brief overview of what's going on and help for them?
Do you mean during the crisis, or you?
Yes, during the crisis, and then we'll talk about the other part later.
We don't know yet. I mean, we know that the state will be there, and they're considering how they can help artists. But what is very difficult in our system in France is that there are no. I mean, you can't do it by large. Like, I mean, people who works in a normal standard society, you know that they have their salary, their income, and then you can play on that. Do the same way you do in Germany. For the first time, France is doing that for, I mean, normal standard jobs. But for us, it's impossible, because we are so diverse. There are so many different situations. So that just trying to understand how they can do. We don't have the same contracts as the others. You know, we have a special status for people who go for all the performing arts, which takes into account that we have kind of temporary work. It's short-term contracts, and in the meantime, there's kind of an employment benefit to balance, you know. But this is for performing arts. For playwrights, people who are only playwrights, they're only paid by royalties, so they don't have the system. They have no social protection, nothing. Plus, they won't receive. Me neither. We won't receive the royalties of the show which won't be played, for instance, which are cancelled. We don't know yet. I don't know. I think for the first time, they said that we are fragile people. It's the first time I hear that. So I think they're going to try. The government is going to try to understand how they can help us, but there's no solution yet. You know, I mean, it's very complicated, very complicated. So. And
So, and usually also, I think the social security system for artists is in France different than in Germany, because as I understand it, you have a system where you have to have something around 40 jobs a year or working days a year, something like that, where you pay in, and if you do that, then you receive the social
yes,
security, right?
yeah,
And
it's an employment benefit, I would say, because
oh yeah,
uh, it's a way to balance. I mean, we're paid by uh, what's the term? Just we usually work for a fair rate, you know.
hmm,
Even if it takes you, it takes 1 week or 2 weeks. Never mind, you know, you're paid. You're not paid by. You, it's not a very realistic salary somehow. So that's why also this unemployment benefit balances a bit, you know, this. But this only for performing arts. People can see them on stage, musicians or, but not for photographers, not for playwrights, not for painters. See, it's
yeah, yeah. And there's, but I see one question left. Do you know if, like, for this year, since I mean, now we already well, the curfew started in March, so 3 months were regular playtime, let's say that. But now we'll probably see, at least for performing arts and theater and musicians and so on, we'll probably see around what 6 months of no service. Do you know if they will reduce the number down from 40 days to like 20 or something? Because it seems a little bit unfair to have the same amounts that you usually have in 1 year, now have it fixed into the first 3 months of the year without knowing.
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. There are, you know, there are big discussions, big debates, because the first reaction was say, okay, so then we will give you 6 months more, for instance, to get the
To get,
hours you need.
Mhm.
But it doesn't make sense neither, because 6 months more, you know, if everything is cancelled, you won't make it, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
of course, of course.
so that's not the right way to do. And so I don't know. I don't have the latest informations, you know. But I think it's a bit like that, you know.
Yeah. You are also you already said that you're a fighter for Europe and for women. And you also taking part of a Creative Europe program, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you, could you explain, because Creative Europe is one of the we have one of the only European programs to subsidize culture, and it is a program that requires that you have several artistic groups from different countries
Yes.
to work together on a common project. So could you explain your project, and with whom are you working on this?
Well, this is not really my project. I'm invited in it as an artist. I was selected. You know, I'm for the last edition. I mean, the organization is Fabula Mundi. It's called Fabula Mundi. It started in Italy, and it's also with and also France and other countries. But I think the start the first structure is in Italy, in Roma, and so it's a collaborating project between different festivals and theaters in whole Europe. And this last edition got a little bit more money than before. Not so much, I think, but a little bit more. So I belong to this last edition. For 3 years, we've been doing a lot of translations, meeting. I was invited, for instance, in Warsaw. I went twice to Warsaw. I went to Vienna. Then going to Vienna, I was commissioned a short play by an Austrian, the Austrian partner, for instance. You know, other plays have been translated in Italian, Romanian. Of my plays, I think. So, and for others, it's the same. You know, so it's to promote to promote. Um, uh, well, yeah, new playwriting, contemporary theater in a European scale with exchanges and trying to say artistically, we are European. I mean, we want to meet each other. We want to we have a lot to share. And I just love this project because I met also very different realities. You know, we're connected we have the same art, and as I told you, it's so we speak the same language somehow, you know, theater people. But then suddenly you can meet a Bulgarian guy or German playwright, and we're trying to do something, you know, and something together also. The last run of this edition is supposed to be in September in Roma, with many also these common projects and the short plays on the same theme. For instance, there were several commissions on the same themes, us to different playwrights from different countries. So we're all very curious to see what this is going to be, you know, because it's the European slogan, "United in Diversity," which is, I mean, it's not only a slogan; it's so true. It's very funny to compare, you know, to meet each other and compare. So I don't know. We don't know yet if this is gonna happen in September. So this is Fabula Mundi. You know, it's about new playwriting. And what else can I say about it? You know,
I have a question about that. So your plays have been previously already translated and then also been performed in several other member states of the European Union. So, for example, Germany also, as well as Romania, I believe, and Austria, of course. And then the question. So I think this Fabula Mundi also, the idea behind that is to have to show what is the discussion in the different member states, that playwrights are focusing on, that the actors are performing, and to see maybe also what you have imagined with your play, how to see how different directors and different actors from other member states would bring that to life, right? But it also, I think, shows that we have several discussions maybe in common in all over Europe. And so maybe this September, to be quite honest, I think it will be hard to have a big festival with a lot of people in a place. Do you think, or do you know if there's any plan? Have you talked to anybody there to change that and maybe talk a little bit about Corona and see what that really does, and really show theater really only makes sense when you bring people together, and it doesn't work without, like, it doesn't work on screen. That's why we don't have theaters in cinemas. That's why we have movies, right? Not theaters.
No, I don't have news yet. I think that what I know is that they're waiting for the end of April to know what's going to be possible or not in September. I told them I wish, fingers crossed, that to postpone it, not to cancel, not to do it, you know, on screen or on Zoom or Skype. No, please, no. So that's my desire. I don't know what they will decide. You know, it's because also what is very, very complicated for me and for many theater artists currently is that also, what I forgot to say, that we move a lot. You know, you go where the work is. I'm spending my time in trains and mostly in trains, not so much in planes, you know. But in France, I travel a lot. I go to work there in this city, then in this city. I'm Paris based, but I worked all over the country, and now I'm just stuck. We're all stuck. We can't move. So there's also a big loss here, you know, where it's a very mobile theater. Well, in France, I don't know in Germany, but in France, yeah, most of us, we go where the work is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
I think in Germany, I think it's a little bit different because we have a lot of commune-funded theaters.
Yeah.
And they employ their own ensemble, and then they have also guests who come there and play there or direct or conduct or anything, but then they travel around a little bit. But I don't know the numbers, but I guess the majority of active actors are in ensembles and have a complete employment by the city, the state, or whoever employs them, which is, I do believe, it's a thing from the very ancient tradition of kings and barons and whoever else having their own theater and orchestra. And I think you chopped all their heads off, and I think that really stopped the theater tradition there. In Germany, there was completely taken over with everything, and that.
Oh, it just stopped. Yeah.
Interruption. I just want to say we have a very stable employment and support for that, at least in the classical theater field.
Yeah, you're a federal country also. So.
Sorry?
Yeah. You're a federal country, so you're the Länder. You have
Yeah, and they all not all of them, but a lot of them have their own state theater. So we have a state theater in Mexico.
Oh, the communication is.
Yeah, the thing is, when I'm getting cold, because it's on my phone, when I'm getting cold, the Skype will block down some. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you, so you said you were traveling a lot in France, and one big thing where you're traveling to, you already said it was the festival in Davignon, Cours d'honneur. Is that right? My French is not so good, but could you explain a little bit what that is? Because that's a very interesting point that I want to talk to you for two different reasons. One, you said this is the place where we get the jobs, and then we have another thing to talk about this festival.
Oh yeah, about the essay I sent you. Yeah, it was because 4 years ago. It was the celebration of the 20th. 20th year of the festival, and the director Olivier P, the current director, commissioned a kind of a serial, commissioned the company to talk about the whole story, the whole history of the festival. And then the theater company who did that, they realized suddenly, they came to the program, and they realized that there would never, since the birth of this festival, international festival, no women, no female voice was never heard in the Cours d'honneur, in the big hall, and and they were just shocked. I was not shocked. I knew it. We knew it. We know it, but. They realized what does it mean? What does it mean?
This is the biggest festival for screenplay or for theater in France, yes. But also francophonic speaking. So it's a very big festival for everybody in this. So also for other French speaking countries, right? It's an international festival.
But also not only French speaking, your Ostermeyer comes, Pina Bausch. Yeah, to be more precise, in this Cours d'honneur, there were 2 women were invited, but with no words. I mean, that one was Pina Bausch, and which I love, of course, and Ariane Mnouchkine. But she was directing then Shakespeare. So we're really talking about. A text written, and which, because when you say text or words, it means also thought. It's a female voice. No female voice since the birth of this festival. So they asked a few female playwrights to talk about that. So that's how I wrote this text, and. Which is a bit ironical, of course. Otherwise, you just cry. You keep on crying. This text. What is very interesting was, you know, so I'm not on the social media, but people around me are, and many young actors send the text to many people. So, you know, many people read this text, and also one critic, American critic, she lives in Canada, decided to translate it because she was also very interested because it's an international festival. So, and the subject, women concerns, is international. We know it now, thanks to Me Too. It was just before Me Too, you know, movement, and so she translated it, and it was published in an international critical stages, it's called, so international review. And it was very interesting for me to see that this subject is, I mean, is worldwide subject also, you know, and so that's why I sent it to you. And yeah, of course, as I told you, it's of course it's an everyday fight for me, you know. It's I write, as I say, I'm conscious that when I write after so many women who couldn't write, you know. I can't. I mean, I don't necessarily write on this subject, but I know that it's so new. You know, it's in our history, the female voice is something new, public. You know, in public.
Yeah.
So that's very important. And in France, it's still an everyday fight. You know, it's because there are still where there's, I think, you know, where there's money and power, it's men. So all about men, you know. And so there's still money and power in public theater in France. So so it's difficult to find your space, you know, space for women. So it's, well, yeah.
The thing that you described, or they found it out, you said in 2016 for the 20th anniversary, and now then they had this commission, or like they had 4 female writers to write text like you did, and now 4 years later, or well, this year it doesn't happen, but the festival. But what changed in the last 3 years? Did they change that? And it's a little cynical to laugh there, but you already told me previously. But yeah, please go ahead.
Of course, no, they didn't. No, because it's you know, it's I think this generation, which means my generation, won't change anything. You know, the director is my age, and it's okay. Now, what he did the year after, it just took it another way, and it was the gender thing, you know. But the women's thing was totally avoided. Because so I don't know. You see, I'm laughing because it's yeah. I think it's very somehow it's really funny how they're so blind. You know, they don't see the reality. You know, they talk about the word. They talk about the word which doesn't exist. You know, about their own word and their own world. And the problem I have is that, you know, theater is supposed to represent the world. We say also represent the world, but what word are we talking about? You know, so you still and in the repertory, of course, no, there are various things, but some plays of the repertory are really made for men. You know, it's the cast. It's 90% of men. It's also about, you know, actors and actresses. You know, it's who's going to represent the world which exists with women and also all kind of people. You know, but so that's a big. That's also, it can cross with that's where women and contemporary theater cross, you know. That's why my text is called, the title is So Many Worlds to Write. There are so many worlds to write which haven't been written, and in this way I'm very hopeful for future, because it's when you think about that, all these stories which were not told, all these characters which are not don't exist on stage. They exist in life, and not on stage. Yes, there's a lot of so many worlds to write, and I think it's well, it's up to us to do it, you know. So and fictions allow it, you know. That's also the power of fiction. Fiction is also kind of can be a model, a role model. Say, okay, we can go this way, or we can show that. There's no reality, you know. You just reality. There are so many, so diverse realities, and you choose what reality you want to show, you know.
Yeah.
And for centuries, it was only men were choosing, and now we have other opportunities.
I have a question though, and we're a little bit timely tight because I need to leave already. But I have one question. So we have seen in the past that what is it, to not have money, or to be in to be in poverty. The risk of poverty and poverty in general is primarily female, and it rises the if you're if you have children and you're a single mother. So do you think, and this for several reasons, for different reasons, but it is bound to your sex. And the question that I have there: do you think that this Corona crisis, especially for the department of theater and artists and so on, do you think it will also hit women harder than men? Because now, let's say we, as you already said, a lot of plays cannot be postponed. They need, because we already planned for next year. But do you think that maybe if we decide now, okay, which one of those two plays do we want to have happen, the man one or the female one, do you think that they will prefer men's work there, just because out of tradition, because we did it for the last 24 years in the festival, do it again? Or do you think this can actually change something?
I don't know. Honestly, nobody knows. No, I'm scared of what I call the cultural Darwinism. You know, I'm just scared that as usual, as any, you know, the bigger we eat, the smaller. I'm not in terms of talent. I'm talking about money. You know, it's all about power and money as usual. So I don't know what. No, I think nobody knows now. But I think I'm talking to a deputy. You know, I think we should, in any crisis, we should be very. We should really take care more of women. Yeah. And also, that's what's happening now. You know, also in France, at home, you know, when people are locked at home, you know, they're just beaten and some are dying now. You know, we realize also what public space is. You know, when you don't have public space. So no, sorry, it's another subject, but it has to do. It's what is being a woman in this world. So I don't know. Nobody knows what will come. Maybe I have a little hope. There was Me Too before, also it's the same scale. You know, I believe we're all on the same scale now. We're on a worldwide scale for Me Too, for women, for Corona, for capitalism, for the capitalism crisis, the global warming. So let's see. In culture, I don't know, maybe the little hope I can have, if everybody is more aware of that, is that that small is beautiful, so that we can take care of that the value can change. We can maybe reverse the value, that fragile things are maybe the most poetical. I don't know. You know, I don't know, Niklas. It's just amazing how much we don't know now, and I think it's for Western people it's so difficult to accept. We've been built, you know, with such a rational thing, thinking we're going this way, then this way, then this way, and suddenly we don't know anything. It's kind of it's an ordeal. It's the relationship to time is changing totally. I don't know what will come out of this. I'm very happy to talk with you. You know, for me, that's a good sign that a young man from Germany is calling me in my countryside there on Skype to talk about that. So this makes me somehow more hopeful than what's happening just around me here, you know?
Thank you very much.
No, it's true. It's not. It's true. I think the European scale. Anyway, the European scale is the good one for all of us. I'm sure. You know, that's what we need for all the big subjects. You know, and so we have to work together. We have to talk together. We have. I would put also. You know, if I can say also something about Creative Europe, of course, we need this program more and more. We need also a big investment in translations. As Umberto Eco said, you know, the language of Europe is translation. We're so lucky. We have beautiful different languages. We speak different languages, and it's so beautiful. We are so beautiful different cultures, and so we need to I don't know. I would invest a lot in translation.
Yeah, I think that's also that's a good point that you raised there, because in order to understand each other, like to understand each other's standpoint and feelings and everything, you first obviously have to understand them by the language. And I think it would be very interesting to see what people and societies, and thus the artists and authors, are thinking in Estonia. What are they thinking in Lithuania, in Sweden, as well as in Spain, and all these places, to really get what is Europe thinking about, what is Europe trying to say, and so on and so forth. So we have already in the last or like we are negotiating the budget at the moment for the next 7 years, and we have already called for a doubling of the Creative Europe program, and it is hard to get it through, but I think with points like you raised, and especially with those translating, which is very important for a lot of rather small member states, we also have to see when we talk about power, which is money, then it's important how much can you sell, and that's also a very big selling point for policy things. In France and in Germany, they have big markets. They don't care so much. But for Estonia, if they can publish in German, or if Latvian can publish in French, they can sell way more, and that's very interesting for them. So I think that's the point where we can bring them really together. And even if they think about market, we can think about a common Europe and a united people behind that. I think that's a very important thing. Thank you, Nathalie. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you very much for taking your time. I already have to say goodbye, even though it looks really gorgeous out there in your countryside in France.
Yeah.
Where are you exactly?
It's in Le Lot. It's the southwest of France. It's very rural. There's almost nobody. There's no corona here. It looks a little bit like Toscana. It's where my parents live. It was the farm of my grandfather. That's the place where I can. That's my shelter. You know. So, I'm very lucky to have this now. Can I say last thing, Niklas? I was thinking, maybe it's the time, because also maybe it's the time to talk also about this universal living wage. I don't know if
the basic income,
the basic income, because we won't solve. The diversity is a beautiful thing. We can't, have one big rule for. It's good that artists are different. I mean, we're all different, but this basic income from everybody, for everybody would be. I don't know. I think it's Europe can make it. Europe can make it.
I think so too, and I support this idea. But I think that especially in the discussion where we are right now, a lot of people are afraid, are not ready for it, and they can't really put their head behind it. But funny that you mention it, actually, because just today we finalized a forum We have several projects where the parliament can start initiatives, and I submitted a program which is a basic income for artists. So to say, we take a region, so it's just in small scale, but to get some results, to see how it works, to make an experiment out of it, and see if that works out. To have a region determined, and in that region, every artist gets 1,400 euros per month. If they submit at least, I don't know, 2 or 3 pieces of work a year, which we can call art, so that not everybody gets it, but it's really based on artists. And then we see for after a year, did that change the people? Do they have more freedom? Can they easily produce more art, or maybe it even maybe it's even counterproductive, but to have at least the experiment and see where it leads to. Yeah. And if we start there, maybe next year we will introduce a pilot project for a region, which is also something that I would be very interested in, to have really basic income in one region, to see what does that do with the people living there. And if we go to regions that have been so far really poor and had very horrendous experiences in economic and recession and so on and so forth, I think maybe this might even be a thing to relieve the people there from their burden from the financial burden, and help them get their head into something positive.
Yeah, because this poverty we have now in France, for instance, which is revealed also by this crisis, is just terrible. It's not new; it's just appearing, and we have to do something. We're rich countries, we really have to do something. So let's take this crisis as an opportunity to cure ourselves. I don't know.
I hope we will do that. Really, I hope that we use the crisis for the better and not go out worse. But for that, first, obviously, Europe needs to stand together. At the moment, what we see in Spain as well as in Italy, solidarity is needed, and not just fighting against who gets the best mask. No, it's about going in there, helping, giving what is needed, which is at the moment money and resources, and not looking for the price tag. I think that's completely wrong. Anyway, thank you again, Nathalie. I really have to go. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you, Nathalie. Fillion, playwright from playwright and director, both together from France with her play. Your play, did I say it right? It was plus grand que moi, right?
Que moi, plus grand que moi.
Plus grand que moi. Alors.
But not bad. Your accent is not bad.
I actually want to learn French during this time at the moment, because there's French classes in Parliament, but Corona. Okay. I'll improve, I promise. See you around.
Thank you. Niklas. Thank you very much. Bye. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Stay healthy.